We want to welcome our buddy Ted Cruz. Senator Cruz, how are you, sir?
Mark, great to be with you.
Ted, first of all, you have a podcast with my buddy Ben Ferguson. Your podcast is called what, and who is your platform with? Is it iHeartRadio?
It is iHeart, yeah.
And what do you call your...
It's called Verdict with Ted Cruz. And
Verdict
we do
Ted
it 3
Cruz.
days a week. We do it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
All right, and you're with iHeart, correct?
Yeah, correct.
All right, I want to get into a number of issues here. First of all, why does the Democrat Party deny what everybody sees? That it hates the state of Israel and it will do almost nothing to defend children in this country and others who are being threatened with anti-Semitic violence. Why do they pretend they're none of those things?
Look, it is the sad reality, and nothing laid that more bare than Chuck Schumer's disgraceful speech on the Senate floor last week, where he called for the overthrow of the democratically elected Prime Minister of Israel. He called for a new election in Israel to throw Benjamin Netanyahu out of office. And to the best of my knowledge, there is absolutely no precedent in the history of our country for any senator doing something like this, much less the Senate Majority Leader. And it's notable, Mark, he didn't call for the overthrow of the leadership of Hamas. He didn't call for the overthrow of the leadership of Iran or of Russia or China or North Korea or Venezuela. He chose the world's only Jewish state. And understand his criticism. I get that he hates Prime Minister Netanyahu personally. But his criticism is not with Netanyahu. It's not with Bibi. It is with the voters of Israel who elected him. They had an election. Israel is our friend and ally. He is the elected leader. And yet Schumer has the arrogance and condescension to treat Israel like some banana republic, some puppet state. It was truly disgraceful. And to do it in the middle of a war, to do it while Israel is defending itself from the horrific acts of terrorism of October 7th is even more disgraceful. And I'll tell you, Mark, something that you know, but that often gets overlooked. A lot of people talk about the squad, the radical anti-Semites in the House, and they're a problem. But the real problem is the anti-Israel and anti-Semitic sentiment is not confined just to the fringe of the Democrat Party. It is more and more the so-called mainstream of the Democrat Party, as embodied by Chuck Schumer's disgraceful speech and by Joe Biden. The White House immediately chimed in their agreement that they thought it was a great speech.
I mean, I think we have to admit now that the Democrat Party and Biden and Schumer are betraying Israel. And that is the one Jewish state, as you point out, the homeland. They're betraying them. They are reaching out to the River to the Sea crowd. I'm just being honest.
Yep.
In Dearborn, in California, in New Jersey. Biden sent senior advisors out to try and get their vote. And, of course, they are demanding, as Hamas is telling them to, and Hezbollah, the leaders of these terrorist regimes, demanding that Biden abandon Israel, and worse, that he undermine them and save Hamas. Biden is now demanding that Israel save Hamas, not destroy it, and that it cut up its own country and give Judea and Samaria to the Palestinians. And the last survey showed that 87% of the Palestinians supported Hamas on October 7th. Why should Israel commit suicide to accommodate Joe Biden's reelection efforts?
Well, Israel shouldn't, and it's not going to. You know, yesterday at the Republican lunch, Benjamin Netanyahu joined us virtually, and we had a chance to talk with him, and he was adamant that Israel is committed to eliminating Hamas. And understand what Biden is doing, this is not new. And I know you know this, but look, Joe Biden has been the most anti-Israel president our nation has ever seen. From day one, Biden has systematically undermined the state of Israel, and it has been a whole-of-government effort that has included flowing $100 billion to Iran, that pledges death to Israel, that has included flowing hundreds of millions of dollars to Gaza that went straight to Hamas. In a very real sense, Joe Biden funded the attack on October 7th. That has included systematically undermining the administration of Benjamin Netanyahu, so much so that Joe Biden made clear Netanyahu is not welcome in the White House. He's not invited him to the White House, and he said he's not welcome there. Biden welcomes anti-American leftists like Lula in Brazil. They are celebrated in the White House, but the elected leader of the state of Israel is not allowed in this Biden White House, and that was true long before October 7th.
Well, it looks like Senator Cruz, the Wall Street Journal, is now shilling for Chuck Schumer. They interviewed him, and he said, look, I'm just trying to save Israel from Netanyahu, he says. Now, that's pretty, that's a big ego even for Schumer, don't you think? And not only that, this is an elected government. And now, if Chuck Schumer were walking the streets of Israel, he would be despised. What do you make of a comment like that?
Look, you're right that it reflects incredible arrogance, incredible condescension and hubris. And it also reflects the political realities of the Democrat Party, that they are dealing with a growing radical base in their party that hates Israel, that profoundly hates Israel. You know, I'm told there's a joke in Israel right now that Schumer's speech was all about a two-state solution, the two states being Michigan and Nevada.
Yeah, right.
That, you know, they're focused on domestic policy, number one, but number two, ideologically. You know, a lot of people were surprised. I spoke in the weeks after October 7th to a very successful entrepreneur in Silicon Valley who's a man of the left. And he was astonished at the anti-Semitism on campus and college campuses. And he was like, where did this come from? I don't understand. And my response to him, which you know very well and talk about frequently on your show, is this is the natural fruit of the cultural Marxism that has taken over the Democrat Party. And for the cultural Marxists, they divide the world into oppressors and victims. And they have defined Jews as oppressors, and they have defined Palestinians as victims. And the consequence of that for the cultural Marxists is that they celebrate the violent revolution, the violent overthrow of the oppressors by the so-called victims. And that dynamic, we see it play in the Biden administration. We see it where even as Biden is undermining Israel on a daily basis, even as Biden keeps saying in the days and weeks after October 7th, let's have a pause, let's have a ceasefire, stop killing Hamas terrorists. Even while Biden does that, it's not enough for the radicals in the Democrat Party. You've got literally White House interns protesting the president, and that is the sentiment that Chuck Schumer is channeling, the sentiment of the modern-day liberal that embraces cultural Marxism.
So why somebody like you, I've known you a long time, you've never wavered in your support for America, you've never wavered in your support for Israel and its democracy. Why is it that you, at this moment when their backs are against the wall, when they need our country's help, you're more supportive of Israel than Chuck Schumer? He's Jewish and you're not.
Well, look, I'll let Schumer speak for himself, but I'll tell you, for me, it is very much from the heart, and it is a lifelong passion. And listen, it's several things. Number one, I'm a Christian, was raised a Southern Baptist, and I was taught in Sunday school when I was a little boy that those that bless Israel shall be blessed, and those who curse Israel shall be cursed. And I'll tell you, for me, from childhood, I always wanted to be on the blessing side of things and not the curse side of things. But I'll say there's another reason, and a very important reason, because I have a job which is to be a senator. And my job as being the senator for Texas is to fight for Texas and fight for this country. And the reason that I support Israel is it is profoundly in the United States' interest to support Israel. Israel is our strongest ally in a very troubled region of the world. Israel is a liberal democracy that shares our values, that respects human rights, that protects human rights. Israel, the enemies of Israel are the enemies of America. The people who want to kill Jews are the people who want to kill Americans. And October 7th was a horrific mass murder. It's the greatest mass murder of Jews in a single day since the Holocaust. But it's also one of the worst terrorist attacks against America that we have seen since 9/11. And inevitably, when Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden support Iran and send billions to Iran, there's a reason the Ayatollah refers to Israel as the little Satan and America as the great Satan, why they chant death to America and death to Israel, and supporting Israel is in America's interest.
I'm going to move to one other issue quickly, because I know you don't have all day here. And that is the border. It's very important to you. You represent a state with a massive border in the South, all these people coming across the border and so forth. Joe Biden won't lift a finger. He doesn't care about the terrorists, the criminals, the Venezuelan gang members, the MS-13 gang members, the toxic drugs killing Americans. He doesn't care about the property damage. He doesn't care about the human toll that it's taking on both sides. What kind of a man is this that has a policy that results in the greatest slave trade since the end of the Civil War?
It is brazenly cynical. It is all about politics. Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer and every congressional Democrat is willing to turn a blind eye on everyone who is dying. They're willing to turn a blind eye on the little boys and little girls who are being brutalized by human traffickers. They're willing to ignore the women being violently raped. They're willing to ignore the more than 100,000 Americans who died of drug overdoses, all for power, all because they look at the 10.4 million illegal immigrants and they see future Democrat voters. And listen, you look at Laken Riley, who has come to really embody the grotesque evil behind this administration's open borders. Laken Riley, a beautiful 22-year-old woman in Georgia, a nursing student, beaten to death while she was out jogging. Her death is the direct result of Joe Biden's open border. We had the murderer in our custody. He was apprehended in El Paso. Had Biden simply followed the law, he would have been put on a plane and sent back to Venezuela, and Laken Riley would be alive. But Biden didn't care. He let the murderer go. That wasn't the end of it. The murderer went to New York. He was arrested again, this time for endangering a child. But New York is a sanctuary city, and they let him go again. Had they locked him up and put him in jail, Laken Riley would be alive. And then, Mark, during the State of the Union, you saw that when he didn't say a word about Laken Riley in his prepared remarks. Finally, in response to heckling, he tried to say her name, although he got her name wrong. And his defense, he said, well, she was killed by an illegal, but legals kill lots of people too. What a grotesque defense. Because there are murderers already in America, he is fine letting more murderers go. Mm-hmm. And the next day, to add insult to injury, what did he do? He turned around and apologized, not to Laken Riley's family, not to her parents, for letting go the murderer who killed their daughter. No, he apologized for using the word illegals. He was more interested in satisfying the woke mob than he is in caring for American citizens. This is evil. And by the way, it's not just Joe Biden. It is Chuck Schumer. It is every Democrat. My opponent, the left-wing Democrat who is running against me right now in Texas, Colin Allred, very liberal voting record, has voted 100% with Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi over and over and over again. He was asked today about Laken Riley, and he just laughed. His response, it's caught on video, he's just laughing. He refuses to answer the question. He's hiding from reporters. He's following the Joe Biden strategy of hiding in his basement, but their response is to laugh and to take no responsibility for the people who are dying because of their grotesque policies.
And it is very, very important that you're reelected. Your election's coming up now. They're going to spend $100 million to take you out. Schumer cannot stand you. Of course, we cannot stand Schumer. And they're going to spend an enormous amount of money lying about you and turning your opponent into some kind of saint. This is what they do. Tell us, how close is it going to be in Texas, and where do people go if they want to send you money and support you?
Well, we have a massive battle in Texas. Schumer has made clear I'm his number one target in the country. My last re-election, I won by less than 3 points. It was 2.6%. The left-wing Democrat running against me is the number one Democrat fundraiser in the country running for Senate. He is printing money. He is already outraising my last opponent, Beto O'Rourke, 3-1. And leftists are flooding money in. As I said, Schumer is going to spend over $100 million. George Soros is spending millions to beat me in Texas. And the way we're going to win, but the way we're going to win is millions of patriots that listen to your show, that are across Texas, that are across the country, going to our website. Our website is tedcruz.org. Going to tedcruz.org and making a contribution, giving $25 or $50 or $100, or so many people who sign up for recurring contributions where they give, say, $25 a month. That makes a massive difference, and it's how we withstand the literally millions and millions of dollars that Schumer and Soros are putting into Texas to beat me and to try to flip Texas and turn this chaos at the open borders into a permanent reality in America. That's what the stakes are. And so I'm so grateful. Look, every time I go on your show, Mark, your listeners are unlike the listeners of any show in the world in that they go to tedcruz.org, they make those contributions, and it is literally the oxygen that we need to survive.
And Mr. Producer, let's put that link on all the social platforms. Folks, I can't say this strongly enough. Ted Cruz is Mr. Conservative in the Senate. Can you imagine a Senate without him? Can you imagine him being replaced by another leftist out of Texas, of all places? They're trying to turn Texas purple. It's certainly one of the objectives of the open borders. We need to push back. We need to elect Trump. We need to elect Ted Cruz. It will be a horrific, horrific election night if one of them or both of them doesn't succeed. So he's telling you, you hear the senator, he's being way outspent. He's got George Soros spending against him, Democrat billionaires, Schumer's organized against him, and the only people who can help him are us. So, Ted, one more time, I want to encourage you folks, if a million of us give $25 each, he's in the running, he's in the race. Go ahead, Ted. What's the site again?
The website is tedcruz.org. And I will tell you, look, I still remember back when I first ran for Senate 12 years ago. And I would go on your show, and nobody had ever heard of me. I'd never been elected to nothing. Literally, the last thing I was elected to was student council.
That's why we love you.
And I'm running in Texas. And you supported me early on. And I would go on air, and you'd say, we're doing a Levin surge right now, a Levin surge. Yeah. And I would literally get an email on my phone with each contribution. And while we were on the radio, my email would explode as patriots across the country would go to tedcruz.org and make contributions. I wouldn't have won 12 years ago without the patriots who listen to this show, and I'm not going to win in November without the incredible support of your listeners.
Well, we're going to have you back multiple times, and we are going to have our Levin surges, and I want to encourage people right now, please dig in. His campaign needs some money. They got to run ads on TV. And they're way outnumbered right now. We cannot allow the Democrats and the leftists to keep doing this to our candidates. So it's up to us. It's not, what are we going to do, Mark? The answer is right now, what will each of you do to help Ted Cruz? Ted, God bless you, my brother.
God bless you.